So all of this was illegally dumped. Why a tree service company would dump this stuff on private property, I have no idea. It just happens to be my property. So in a way, it's kind of a ironic twist of fate, because you know I'm going to use some of this stuff. But I've been going through it, and I found one log in particular that I think I'm going to do this week. Let me show you. Can you see it? This one right here. It's got a lot going on. I think it's elm. That's my best guess. I don't have any experience turning elm, but it's also green, so it's going to turn well. But there's got to be some beautiful green going on inside this thing with all this going on. So I'm thinking I'm going to slice that thing right down the middle and go from there. Maybe cut the pith out. We'll see. Right down the middle. Both sides look good, but I picked the one that looked like it had more figure for this week. The other side I'm going to set aside for a while. And here I'm just drilling the hole for the dowel, which is going to be the pivot point for my bandsaw circle cutting jig, which you see here. I showed this circle cutting jig in a little bit more detail in the Natural Edge China Berry bowl video that I did recently, if you want to take a look at that. And there you saw that I had put a faceplate on this. It'll hold it a lot more securely than my worm screw that I use quite a bit. I had to turn this really slow, otherwise this lathe would have been a bucking bronco. To do that, because I've got the old Reeves drive, and I can only set it down to 450 RPM, I had to turn it on and off just to get it spinning slow enough. Which I don't like to do. It's hard on the machine. The belt's already slipping. But it didn't take too long. I was able to turn it up to about 600. Now what I'm doing here with this scraper is just establishing the rim of the bowl, and I'm also going in a little bit deeper just so I can see the pattern of the figure in this bowl, just so I can kind of develop the shape that I want. Now, since I know the grain pattern goes all the way through, what I planned on doing here was kind of a narrow foot with a concave exterior, and that way I can get rid of most of this bark. I don't want to get rid of all of it because I like the look of it. So I'll leave some on the foot, and there's probably going to be a little bit on the rim by the time I'm done. But most of the stuff in the middle is going to go away. And there you can see the shape forming that I'm looking for. I had cut the mortise in the bottom of this bowl so that I could reverse mount it onto the chuck, and I just had too bad of a camera shake to include it in this video. I don't want to do that to you. So there's that one-way 4-jaw chuck, and I'll mount this bowl onto those jaws, and I'll expand them out onto the walls of the mortise to hold the bowl, and then move up the tailstock for extra support. Now it's time to do one of my favorite things, and that's take a look at what some of you amazing subscribers have made. Dan Vachon made these. Just beautiful, beautiful work. Jason Warner. Jason taught himself watching videos and just going for it. Look at this. It's amazing. Good job. Will Simpson does some amazing stuff. I like the way he thinks, a little bit outside the box. Find him on YouTube. His channel is Will Makes Everything. Showing these amazing things that my subscribers make is one way for me to say thank you. But I want to thank everybody that has subscribed to my channel. Thanks so much for helping me grow. I appreciate your support. So here I'm just taking the meat out of the inside of the bowl a little bit at a time. I'm keeping the tailstock up as long as possible until I eliminate most of the weight in this bowl. And that way the chuck won't have as hard a time holding on to this thing. Something else of interest, I thought this wood was really green initially, but I'm not getting sprayed nearly as much as I thought I would be with the water contained in this wood. So, kind of happy to find that out. But my goal here is to turn a fairly thin bowl and just let it dry out the rest of the way naturally and evenly. Look at that grain. Look at the fire. This wood's beautiful. I'm not talking about my work or my design. I'm talking about the actual grain inside of this wood. I'm sure happy to find it. That's the reason I picked out this particular log to cut in half and make into a bowl. A big limb with 4 or 5 different other limbs sticking out. It just had to be pretty on the inside, and sure enough. So once the weight of this bowl was reduced enough and I had it down to where I wanted it, I removed the tailstock and made sure the jaws were nice and tight. And started taking down the bottom of the bowl to where I wanted it. That was pretty close. Going for about 3/8 thickness all the way down the walls of the bowl and the base, with the exception of the foot, which is going to be a little bit thicker. So I sanded in stages: 150, 220, 320, 500. And a fairly thin coat of high gloss paste wax. I thought maybe that might help avoid some checking if the moisture in this wanted to evaporate too quickly. I don't think that's going to be an issue, though. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to stick this up on a shelf and revisit it in a couple months. Even though I think it's finished, we'll see. Give it a couple months in the shop. Nice and dry. If it checks anywhere, I'll address it and maybe add some resin or something like that and then call it done. But I think it's going to be fine, really. Look at that. That grain is so pretty. There's so much going on in this bowl. I hate to use the word literally, but it literally looks like flames in some places. It's fiery. Fresh, fiery elm. Courtesy of a unscrupulous tree service company that was too lazy to get rid of their waste in a proper manner. Look at that flame. Thanks for watching. Semper Fi.